Hey, welcome back. In this lecture, I'm going to talk to you about the second half of Othello, Act 2. Now, in the previous video, I talked about Act 2, Scene 1. This one has two scenes in it, but really the second scene is all of, 10 or 12 lines. And it's basically everybody come to a party. And if you're using the same book, that would be about page, it would be 606, page 606, or it would be line 286 for when the second scene starts. And a herald, meaning somebody who talks about the news, comes out and announces, everybody, Othello's so happy to be home, and plus, he won the war, plus it's his nuptials, meaning he's still a newlywed, and so everyone can party from 5 o'clock until 11 without anything happening to you, and so have a good time. He says, every man put himself into triumph, some dance, some to make bonfires, each man to what sport and revels his addiction leads him. For besides the beneficial news of the war, it is a celebration of Othello's nuptial. So that's the entire scene. I didn't read all of the lines, but and it is hot again. Very, very hot. Let's see about this camera right here. All right, so now we're going to watch how Iago goes about planning Cassio, who was promoted above him to the first lieutenant for Othello, planning his destruction. And we see right off the bat that Othello thinks the best about everybody. So in scene 3, Othello, first line, says to Cassio, "Good Michael, look to the guard tonight," meaning take care of things to make sure the city is well guarded. He calls him Good Michael. It's important that we understand that the name Michael is the name of God's first archangel, who goes about doing the things that the God wants. And maybe some of you have seen John Travolta in Michael. If you haven't, I'd recommend that movie. And Cassio says he'll do it. And Othello turns to Iago, who's there at the same time, and says, Iago is most honest. Now, even though Othello believes this, Iago is the farthest thing from most honest. A most honest person would be true, kind, chaste, benevolent, fun-loving, caring, humble, etc. And Iago is none of those things. Iago, as I talked about in the last lecture, is full of the 7 deadly sins. And Othello says to Cassio, Michael, good night. Tomorrow at your earliest, let me have a speech with you. So he's making plans for the meeting. And then he turns to his wife, newlywed wife, and says, Othello does, quiet, puppies. Quiet while I teach. Come, my dear love. The purchase made, the fruits are to ensue. The profit's just to come between me and you. Now, in the earliest scenes of Othello, Othello says, let Desdemona speak. But even in this part where he's telling his wife, come on, let's go to bed. I don't have anything to do, let's go to bed. And we can celebrate our wedding, our honeymoon, finally. He says that the purchase has been made. And the purchase, can you imagine thinking about your loved one, the person that you partner with, as someone that you purchased? But this is a long tradition in Western culture of misogyny. So Othello is not above seeing above embracing the values of the time. Now, in this time and age, we have men who walk around saying, well, this is my little one, or my shorty, or this is my ball and chain. I had a brother-in-law who would call my sister that, his ball and chain. These are horrible things to say about your partner, especially a partner who you're going to have children with and live out your life with. It's not someone you've rented, but in this case, in Shakespearean times, the purchase has been made. So let's enjoy the sweet fruits. So Iago comes onto the stage, and Cassio tells him what the instructions are. And Iago knows that Cassio doesn't drink alcohol because he knows what it does to him. It makes him black out. It makes him violent. Iago knows this. And so he's like, well, no, let's not go to the watch right now. It's not even 10 o'clock. Our general cast us thus early for the love of his Desdemona, who let us not therefore blame. He has not yet made wanton the night with her, and she is sport for love. So, of course, Iago has to talk about the general's intimate life and talk about how, well, the only reason he gave us this time off is because he hasn't time to get with his wife. And so, in the meantime, he's going to be making her a wanton night with her. He's going to be sporting her. And we should just go celebrate. And Cassio, on the other hand, when Iago goes very low, bass is what I would call it, Cassio goes very high, and he says, she is a most exquisite lady. This is about line 16 or 17. And Iago, of course, can't let it go. And I'll bet she's full of game. What do you do with game? You hunt game, right? And Cassio deflects and says, indeed, she's a most fresh and delicate creature. But Iago says, what an eye she has. Methinks it sounds a parley to provocation. So, for Iago, Desdemona has Betty Davis eyes, or Marilyn Monroe's eyes, bedroom eyes. Her eyes are all about having sex with her, which is ridiculous, right? And Cassio, deflecting again, says, an inviting eye, and yet methinks right modest. She's a modest person. And Iago returns, and when she speaks, is it not an alarm to love? So when Desdemona speaks, isn't that just an invitation for sex? And Cassio deflects again and says, she is indeed perfection. And Iago, of course, has to bring it down to baseness and says, to sum it all up for him, well, happiness to their sheets. Now, this is kind of vulgar and base. Back in the Middle Ages and into Renaissance times, for families that could afford to have a wedding reception, what they would do is they would hold a party, and then it would be time for the bride and the groom to go into their bedroom, and they'd still be partying outside. And what they would be waiting for, and even if they couldn't afford a big party, what people would be waiting for the next morning is to see if there was blood on the sheet or on the sheets, to find out if the woman was a virgin or not. Now, of course, one of the most common cosmetic surgeries in Japan right now is hymen reparation. So repairing the hymen so that Japanese husbands believe they're sleeping with a virgin. And I find it very, very vulgar, very grotesque, very intrusive, because I just think that's nobody's business, unless you're considering women as a commodity. So happiness to their sheets. And then he says, "Come here and drink. Come, Lieutenant, I have a stoup of wine in here without are a brace of Cyprus gallants that would fain have a measure to the health of Black Othello." Calling him black again, right? "Look, come and have a drink with all these people who want to celebrate Othello." And Cassio says, "No, not tonight. I have very poor and unhappy brains for drinking. I could well wish courtesy would invent some other custom of entertainment. I don't handle liquor well. I don't handle wine well. I don't handle alcohol well. I wish there was some other way to celebrate," is what Cassio is saying. But of course Iago says, "Oh, come on. They are our friends. Just one cup, but one cup. I'll drink for you." And Cassio says, "I've drunk but one cup tonight, and that was craftily qualified too, and behold what innovation it makes here." Meaning, I already had one drink tonight, and I'm a little tipsy from one drink. One of my good friends growing up was Bobby Savage, and as we got into our teens, and we didn't see each other that much after that, because he made new friends in middle school, or we called it junior high, and in high school, and they called him Two Beer Bob. And 2 beers would make him drunk. And Cassio is saying, "Look, I already had one and I'm already tipsy." By the way, my friend Bob, he likes to go around to breweries and drink private label beers. And not that he's drinking a lot, but that's just one of his pastimes. He's an accountant. Now, all right. So I've drunk one cup. I am unfortunate in the infirmity and dare not task my weakness anymore. I can't handle alcohol. "What, man? It's a night of revels. The gallants, the other men around here," peer pressure, "they desire it." "Well, where are they?" "Here at the door. I pray you call them in." "I'll do it, but it dislikes me." And so he actually takes a drink. And then he leaves, because he's going to get the other guys to come have a drink for Othello. And Iago says to the audience, as an aside again, "If I can fasten but one cup upon him with that which he has drunk tonight already, he'll be as full of quarrel and offense as my young mistress' dog." And then Iago, now that he's put his plan in motion to get Cassio drunk and to humiliate him, refers to his best friend, Rodrigo, who is, remember, put money in my purse, right? "Now my sick fool Rodrigo, whom love has turned almost the wrong side out, to Desdemona hath tonight caroused, potations pottle deep, and he is to watch." So Rodrigo has been getting drunk, like a country western song, about the fact that he doesn't have Desdemona. But remember that Iago has already told Rodrigo that Desdemona is secretly in love with Cassio, and to please pick a fight with Cassio. Okay. So if you go to page 608, Iago talks about how he's bought drinks for everyone. "Have I tonight flustered with flowing cups, and they watch too." This is about line 48. "Now amongst this flock of drunkards am I to put our Cassio into some action." Iago becomes the director of the play, and he is manipulating everybody. Cassio comes out along with Montano and other gentlemen, meaning people of a certain status of wealth. But here they come. "If consequence do but approve my dream, my boat sails freely both with wind and stream." So he's like Mr. Burns, "Excellent. It's all falling into place. Or, like a Jedi, you are not allergic to drinking. You should drink. I should drink. These are not the droids you look for. I should drink. Okay? Or like in Harry Potter, controlling people. All right? Cassie comes in. For God, they've given me a rouse already. They've already made me drunk, right? And Montano, who is the governor, says, good faith, a little one, not past a pint. I'm a soldier. I only gave you 12 ounces of alcohol. And Iago, some wine, ho! So bring on the wine. And then Iago starts to sing, which is very fun. Because why would Shakespeare have the villain singing a bar song right now? Why? Because the audience wants to be entertained. And the audience understands what Iago's doing. Plus, the audience likes to drink. And chances are they were drinking at the same time. And so he sings, and let the cannikin clink, and let the cannikin clink. A soldier's a man, a life's but a span. Why then, let a soldier drink? Okay, so cheering people on. Let's drink, let's drink, let's drink. And some more wine, boys. So he's buying another round. And Cassio's like, for God, an excellent song. And I'm sure Shakespeare had Iago sing this off tune and poorly. But Cassio's like, now that he's had a couple, or a few, who knows? That's a great song. And Iago's like, I learned it in England, okay, because this play is set in Venice, in Italy, but it was made for an English audience by Shakespeare. And he says, I learned it in England where, indeed, they're most potent in potting. They're really good at drinking in England. Your Dane, your German, and your swag-bellied Hollander, drink, ho! They all drink, but the English outdrink them. They are nothing to your English, which the audience would laugh at. You know, for us, since we're not back there at that time, we're like, what the hell is he talking about? No, he's making a joke for the audience who they like to drink. And even if you go back into biblical times and you look in the Old Testament and the New Testament, there is a lot of talk about wine being drunk. And that has to do a lot with the fact that water was impure, and the way to take out all of the germs, the things that would give people diarrhea, is to ferment it. And so that's what people drank instead of drinking the water that was so bad. Cassio says, is your Englishman so expert in his drinking? And Iago, why, he drinks you with facility, your Dane dead drunk. He drinks with facility. He can drink a Dane dead drunk on the table. He sweats not to overthrow your Almain, your German. He gives your Hollander a vomit ere the next bottle can be filled. So even people from Holland can't keep up with the English. They have to throw up before they can drink some more. And Cassio's like, to the health of our general. And Montano, I am for it, Lieutenant, and I'll do you justice. And Iago sings, oh, sweet England. And he sings now, King Stephen was a worthy peer, his breeches cost him but a crown. He held him sixpence all too dear with that he called the tailor down. He was a wight of high renown, and thou art but of low degree. 'Tis pride that pulls the country down, then take thine old cloak about thee. So he sings a bawdy song about a king losing his pants and having to cover up being naked. Some wine! Some more wine, ho! And Cassio's all, for God, this is a more exquisite song than the other. And Iago looks at him and says, do you want me to sing it again? No, for I hold him to be unworthy of his place that does these things. So Cassio does not approve of drinking, even though he is drinking at the moment. Well, God's above all, and there be souls must be saved, and there be souls must not be saved. Have you ever talked to someone who's drunk and they hardly make any sense at all? They're making random associations with everything. That's how Cassio's mind is working right now. Well, we have to save some souls and others don't need to be saved, and and have another drink, right? And Iago looks at him and says, "It's true, good lieutenant." So he's just continuing to encourage him to get drunker and drunker. This happens at frats, fraternities, and sororities all the time. Not a year goes by without me reading about a sorority or fraternity pledge who didn't die of alcohol poisoning. Because, well, everyone else is doing it. Here, drink the whole bottle of vodka. And then when they pass out, people are like, ha 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 ha, and leave them to die. Because they're too young and stupid to understand that, well, when you have alcohol poisoning, it makes you stop breathing. Okay. And then Cassio's all, well, for my own part, no offense to the general or any man of quality, meaning any high status person, I hope to be saved. And Iago, and so do I too, Lieutenant. Now, listen to this. This is the man who said, I am not what I am, purposefully blaspheming what the God of the Old Testament told Moses. I am who I am. This is the man who blasphemes about the Ten Commandments. Well, I hope to be saved too. What? Not in a spiritual sense for Iago. He hopes to be saved by getting his vengeance filled, by getting status. Aye, but by your leave, not before me. So I want you to be saved too, but not before me, says Cassio. The lieutenant is to be saved before the ancient, because I'm higher rank. Let's have no more of this. Let's do our affairs. God forgive our sins. Gentlemen, let's look to our business. Do not think, gentlemen, I'm drunk. So he's drinking and he's like, oh, shit, I'm supposed to be looking out for the guard tonight. So let's get about our business. I'm not drunk. How many people have you ever met that said that? I'm not drunk. And they're obviously drunk. Not just a little bit, but a lot. This is my ancient, my right hand, and this. So this is my ancient, my right hand. And this is my left hand. I am not drunk now. I can stand well enough and I speak well enough. And all of them like, excellent, well. Why, very well then. You must not think that I am drunk. Come on. He's already said he's not drunk 3 times. He is drunk. Which is perfect for Iago because he's already asked for Rodrigo to cause a fight with him. And then Montano tells them all to go on out and do their thing. And then Iago plants the seeds of doubt about Cassio's character in Montano's mind, who is a governor. You see this fellow that's gone before? He's a soldier fit to stand by Caesar and give direction. And do but see his vice. His vice. See the kind of character he has. He's a great soldier, except for he's a drunkard. Cassio doesn't drink. Okay? Cassio normally doesn't drink because he already knows that he can't. 'Tis to his virtue a just equinox, the one as long as the other. So he's as great, he's halfway great, he's all the way great, but equally he's all the way a drunkard. 'Tis pity. I fear the trust Othello puts in him on some odd time of his infirmity will shake this island. I'm worried that when Othello trusts him in a time of war and a time of importance, that it will put all of us to danger. And Montano asks in about line 109, but is he often thus? 'Tis evermore his prologue to sleep. He'll watch the horologe a double set if drink not rock his table. So he has to drink in order to go to sleep, is what Iago's saying. He'll actually sit there and stare at the clock if he doesn't have a drink the whole night through. It were well the general will put in mind of this. Someone should tell the general and let him know. And then now Rodrigo comes in, and Iago says to him, "How are you, Rodrigo? I pray after the lieutenant go. So go after Cassio." And then Rodrigo gets back out because he's just doing the bidding of Iago. And Montano says, "And 'tis great pity that the noble Moor, so noble, should hazard or gamble such a place as his own second with one of an ingraft infirmity. It were an honest action to say so to the Moor. Not I for this fair island. I could never badmouth Cassio to Othello. I do love Cassio well and would do much to cure him of this evil. Oh, bless his heart. If I had it my way, I would make it so that he's not an alcoholic. When indeed, he is not. But this is going to look badly for Cassio, especially when now a fight is going to be caused. And I don't know if you've been around people who are drinking, but oftentimes, if they drunk too much, they lose control of themselves, and you end up with the weirdest arguments and fights. All right? So within offstage meaning, you hear the words, "Help! Help!" And Iago's like, "Hark! What noise?" When inside he's going, "Ha ha ha!" Okay, now go to line, what would it be, about 125, next page. Cassio comes in driving Rodrigo, meaning they're fighting with their swords, and Rodrigo is backing up. And Cassio, "Zounds, you rogue, you rascal!" And Montano's all to Cassio, "What matter, Lieutenant? A knave to teach me my duty? I'll beat the knave into a twig and bottle." And Rodrigo's like, "Oh boy, beat me? Dost thou prate, rogue? Are you talking?" And he slaps him, he smacks him again. He doesn't stab him yet, okay? And Montano intervenes in between them. "Nay, good lieutenant, I pray you hold your hand." And Cassio's all, "Let me go, sir, I'll knock you over the mazzard." And Montano's like, Come, you're drunk." "Drunk? And you're calling me drunk?" And so now Cassio fights Montano, okay? And Iago's right there to Rodrigo. "Away, I say, go and cry out a mutiny now," because Rodrigo has already done his mission. Now cry mutiny. Mutiny meaning a soldier that goes against their superior. All right? And then he turns to Cassio. "Nay, good lieutenant, God's will, gentlemen, help. Ho, lieutenant, sir, Montano, sir, help, master. Here's a goodly watch indeed." This is a really good thing to watch. Okay? A bell rings. "Who's that which rings the bell?" "Diablo, ho! The town will rise." "God's will, lieutenant, hold. You'll be shamed forever." I wonder who could go and ring the town bell at the church to wake everyone up. And that was used as an alarm for towns. You know, now we have all the electronic stuff and smoke detectors and everything, but the oftentimes city squares and certainly churches were equipped with bells, and the bells would be rung in honor of people when they died. They'd be rung to welcome people to services. They would be rung in the middle of the night to let people know, wake up and get ready, there's danger here. And so Othello comes running in and with his guard, and they all have weapons. And he's like, "What's the matter?" And Montano's like, "Zounds, I bleed still. I'm hurt to the death." Because, why? Cassio has hurt in his drunkenness Montano, who his only fault was saying, "Look, don't hurt Rodrigo. You're drunk." Drunk! Okay. He dies. And Othello tells everybody who has weapons out, "Hold for your lives. Stop it." So Iago echoes him. Hold, hold, Lieutenant, Sir Montano. Gentlemen, have you forgot all sense of place and duty? Hold, the general speaks to you. Hold, for shame. So, have you ever had a friend that echoed exactly what you said? Because that way they knew that you would think that they were supporting you. And Othello believes this act that Iago is putting on. And then Othello says, look, if you pull out your sword again, if you do it, he dies upon his motion. Meaning, I'll have you slaughtered if you don't put your arms away. And then and Othello says to Montano and Cassio, what is the matter, masters? And then he turns to his ancient, the one who's supposed to be wise, his advisor, and says, honest Iago, what that looks dead with grieving? Speak, who began this? On thy love I charge thee. So Iago's busy over there going, I can't believe they would embarrass us this way. Even though inside he's like, score. He shoots. He scores. I don't know. Friends all, but even now in quarter in fights, and in terms like bride and groom, divesting them from bed, and then, but now, as if some planets had unwitted men, swords out, tilting at one another's breasts in opposition bloody. I cannot speak in beginning to this peevish odds, and would in action glorious I had lost those legs that brought me to a part of it. I wish I had amputated legs, so that I didn't have to see this horrible thing that's just happened right here. And Othello says to Cassio, how comes it, Michael, you are thus forgot? You forgot your office, your rank, the code of behavior? And Cassio says, I pray you pardon me. I cannot speak. Okay? And then he says to worthy Montano, why would you act like a night brawler? Give me an answer. And Montano says, I'm hurt to danger. I'm dying right now. I'm wounded. And it's not a sin to defend ourselves when violence is enacted upon us. That's in about line 178. And then Othello says to all of them, now by heaven my blood begins my safer guides to rule and passion, having my best gents collided, assays to lead the way. If I once stir or do but lift this arm, the best of you shall sink in my rebuke. If I acted on my anger right now, it wouldn't matter how good you are with a sword. I would kill you. Because Othello is horrified that here is his first officer and the governor causing a melee on a night that's supposed to be a celebration of the war that he won and his wedding. And he says, give me to know how this foul rout began, who set it on, and he that is approved in this offense, the person who did actually cause it, though he had twinned with me, even if he's my twin, both at birth, my twin would lose me. That's how angry Othello is. So even if this was my twin, it would not be my twin any longer. And he says to Iago, 'tis monstrous, Iago, who began it? If partially affined or leaked in office thou dost deliver more or less than the truth, thou art no soldier. And that's what Montano says to Iago, you need to tell the truth. And Iago's like, touch me not so near, I'd rather have this tongue cut from my mouth than it should do offense to Michael Cassio. I'd rather have my tongue cut out than to betray my friend, than to become a narc. Cassio's not his friend, he's his enemy. He's just jealous of his position, right? And so he goes on to talk about how Cassio started it. Even though, who started it? Iago did, by getting Cassio drunk and having Rodrigo incite him. And he says this phrase that so often gets said when men get arrested for doing bad things. down in line 217 about. But men are men, the best sometimes forget. Boys will be boys. And that's basically what a judge said about an athlete a few years ago who raped a fellow student behind a dumpster. And he was, if I remember right, he was a swimmer. And the judge talked about how sad it was because this could harm his athletic career. He didn't talk about how sad it was for the woman who he raped behind a dumpster. And so Othello says in about line 123, I know, Iago, thy honesty and love does mince this matter, making it light to Cassio. So you're making it like it's not a big deal. Cassio, I love thee, but never more be officer of mine. So he fires Cassio. And then Desdemona comes in and asks, what's the matter? And Othello's like, all's well now, sweeting. Come away to bed. And then to Montano, the governor, sir, for your hurts, myself will be your surgeon. I will help you out personally. I will doctor you. And Montano gets let off. And Othello, naively, even though he is older, he has all this experience. He's been in many, many battles. He's been taken into slavery. He's worked his way back up. Iago, look with care about the town and silence those whom this vile brawl distracted. Come, Desdemona, it's the soldier's life to have their balmy slumbers waked with strife. This is how it is when you're a soldier. Okay? And then the next thing that we hear here is Iago talking to Cassio, and Cassio is worried about his reputation, how one's reputation can be destroyed in an instant. And Iago asks Cassio, are you hurt? And he says, yeah, beyond all surgery. Nothing can help me. Well, God forbid. And Cassio says, reputation, reputation, reputation. Oh, I have lost my reputation. I have lost the immortal part of myself, and what remains is bestial. My reputation, Iago, my reputation. And Iago's like, no, it's not that big a deal, right? So if you go down to about line 249, Cassio says, I will rather sue to be despised and deceived so good a commander with so slight, so drunken, so indiscreet an officer, drunk, and speak parrot, and squabble, swagger, swear, and discourse fustian with one's own shadow. And then we have Shakespeare commenting on alcohol. O thou invisible spirit of wine, if thou hast no name be known by us, if thou hast no name to be known by, let us call thee devil. And Iago says, well, why did you get in that fight? And Cassio says, I know not. Is it possible? Yeah, well, because he was in blackout. He does not remember. And that is why he doesn't drink. It's because he does not want to black out. I remember a mass of things, but nothing distinctly, a quarrel, but nothing. Wherefore, O God, that men should put an enemy in their mouths, alcohol in their mouths, to still away their brains, that we should, with joy, pleasance, revel, and applause, transform ourselves into beasts. And I was like, why? But you're well enough now. How did you recover so quickly? And Cassio says, it has pleased the devil drunkenness to give place to the devil wrath. I sobered up once I got really, really angry. And Cassio determines that he should ask for his place again. Now, and of course, Iago encourages that because he's also, going to tell Othello, look, why does Cassio keep coming around? Why does he keep coming around your wife? What's going on? So if you go to page 614, and once Cassio was exited, so about the middle of the page, about line 293, Iago talks to the audience, so no one else is on stage. And Cassio says to him before leaving the stage, "Good night, honest Iago," because he doesn't know that Iago has just ruined his life. And Iago looks at the audience and says, "And what's he then that says I play the villain when the advice is free I give and honest, probable to thinking, indeed the course to win the more again. For 'tis most easy the inclining Desdemona to subdue in an honest suit. She's framed as fruitful as the free elements." So, once again, he has to bring up this idea that Desdemona is some sort of a sex pot. She's framed most fruitful. She looks like she could have a lot of offspring, right? And then for her to win the more, were it to renounce his baptism, all seals and symbols of redeemed sin, his soul is so unfettered to her love that she may make, unmake, and do what she wants, even as her appetite shall play the god with his weak affection. Othello is so in love with her that she can control him and make him do anything. And then how am I the villain when she can do that, right? To counsel Cassio to this parallel course, directly to his good. Divinity of hell. And I want you to think about that. Oh, let me see if I have a pen that works, a marker. Divinity of hell. And the book says theology of hell. What I want to point out is that divine means godly. Hell means the opposite. But this is what Iago does, is he combines the opposites. And you can't make godliness out of hell. When devils will the blackest sins put on, they do suggest at first with heavenly shows, as I do now. Okay, so when you see a devil or an evil spirit, they look like angels. And that's what I'm doing right now, Iago says to the audience. For whilst this honest fool plies Desdemona to repair his fortunes, and she for him pleads strongly to the more, I will pour pestilence into his ear, into Othello's ear, that she repels him for her body's lust, that she only is asking because she wants to sleep with Cassio. And by how much she strives to do him good, she shall undo her credit with the more. So I will turn virtue into pitch. I will turn virtue into tar. And out of her own goodness make the net that shall enmesh them all. So in the previous scene we had him talking about making a web of destruction to catch everybody. Now he's become not the fisher of men, but a fisherman of evil. Rodrigo comes in and Iago's like, "So how you doing?" "I do follow here in the chase, not like the hound that hunts, but one that fills up the cry." "Well, I feel like I've just been being chased, right? My money's almost spent. I've been tonight exceedingly well cudgeled. So, I'm feeling whipped. My money's almost gone and I've been beaten up." Or, as Shakespeare says it, exceedingly well cudgeled, which is a very funny line if you understand it. Yeah, I got a really good ass whipping, all right? And I think the issue will be I shall have so much experience for my pains, and so with no money at all and a little more wit, I'm going to return to Venice because, he needs to go back home. How poor are they that have not patience? So once again, Iago using fiscal discourse, poor. What wound did ever heal but by degrees? Thou knowest we work by wit and not by witchcraft, and wit depends on dilatory time. Dost not go well? Cassio has beaten you, and thou by that small hurt hast cashiered Cassio. What do you mean it's not going well? Cassio kicked your ass, and because of that, we're kicking his. And so he'll be out of the running with Desdemona. All right? And with Othello. Though other things grow fair against the sun, yet fruits that blossom first will first be ripe. Content thyself a while. By the mass, it's morning. Pleasure and action make the hour seem short. Okay. Who's had any pleasure and action this night? Iago has. He's had the pleasure of manipulation. Retire thee. Go to bed. Away I say, thou shalt no more hereafter. Nay, get thee gone. So once again, we have the thou shalt, an echoing of the Ten Commandments. So it's not thou shalt not commit adultery. It's thou shalt no more hereafter. I'll let you know what's going on. Okay. And then when Rodrigo's off the stage, Iago turns to the audience and says, 2 things are to be done. My wife must move for Cassio to her mistress. I'll set her on. I'll have my wife start talking to Desdemona, since she is already working for her. Myself, in the while, to draw the Moor apart and bring him jump when he may Cassio find it soliciting his wife. I'll sick my wife on Desdemona, and in the meantime, I'm going to be pouring poison into Othello's ear because Cassio shows up and wants to talk to her. Aye, that's the way. Duel no device by coldness and delay. So this is a triumphant evening that has gone better than expected for Iago. And all these people who are caught in his web or his net, the 2 metaphors that have been used so far about his manipulation, they have no idea that they just got used. You know, you got Rodrigo, I was really well cudgeled. He's like, go to bed, it'll be good, because what you did was great. All right, so that is the end of Act 2 of Othello. And I hope that you don't have any opportunities to meet an Iago. And if you do, I hope that unlike Othello and unlike the people around him, you recognize that it's not someone who's speaking kind words to you. This is someone who is a villain and is full of evil and should not be trusted. Thank you.